So, live service games don't have a lot of goodwill at the moment. There are certainly some exceptions to this, with a particular set of live service games that have been around for quite a while, maintaining a solid reputation and continuously trucking forward. But by and large, live service games have been branded with a well deserved negative stigma after a series of releases that bore the undeniable signs of being pretty half assed, rushed, and blatant cash grabs. As with any leaks that are as of yet unconfirmed, we should all take this with a grain of salt, but there has recently been an info dump on 4chan which claims a new Suicide Squad live service game is due to be announced on June 4th in the lead up to E3 2019. Now, a lot of people will probably have an immediately skeptical reaction to this. A 4chan info leak is not something to embrace too quickly, but for a variety of different reasons, this particular leak has me pretty much fully accepting the legitimacy of the claims. I'm not going to read the entire leak because there's a decent amount and it would take too long to do, but a basic summary is that the details outline specifics on the game's release date, some general information about setting and cinematic trailers, some overview on speculative pre-order bundles and early access decisions, and lastly some bullet points regarding the gameplay presentation and various different talking points to emphasize the game's key features. All in all, it is a pretty standard sounding brief on the logistics behind revealing a high-profile game and contains what seems to be a wide spread of details regarding the overall project. There are some context clues about in-game currency, which does not go into explicit detail, but all in all, the information paints the picture of a live service, customizable superhero-themed game that would be closely akin to other loot-based titles in the industry, such as maybe Destiny, The Division, or Anthem, similar to those. So first impression, there's a lot in there, but none of it matters if it isn't true. The thing is, this leak bears some striking similarities to another leak released pretty much the exact same way, which held a great many now confirmed details about Mortal Kombat 11. The Mortal Kombat leak claimed, for instance, that Ronda Rousey would be voicing Sonya, which has been proven to be true. It also claimed there would be a new fighter named Garrus, and gave additional details on how the reveal would be specifically structured. Again, all true. And there is quite a bit contained, which has pretty much all been confirmed to the very letter. Another angle is the well-known fact that Rocksteady Studios, the developer behind the Batman Arkham games, has been working on a new title for quite some time that has been the subject of various different rumors and whispers pertaining to that project being an online multiplayer game as a service, which would now align quite well, though it is far from a credible confirmation. Yet another thread to connect is this one. A Twitter user posed the leak as a question to Jason Schreier, a well-known journalist with a wide network of industry contacts who frequently breaks stories no one else knows about, or debunks rumors that do not really have merit. And his response is yet again far from a concrete confirmation, but it's certainly not a denial, and seems to strongly hint at the leak being somewhat legitimate. Considering the numerous similarities to a previous leak, which is now confirmed to be fully accurate, the ease at which the timelines mesh together, and the known but as of yet unnamed and nebulous project that Rocksteady is currently working on, plus the suggestive sort of hint from Jason Schreier, who has proven to be a veritable repository of insider industry information, I find myself accepting this leak as largely accurate. And with that in mind, I want to discuss the implications of what a live service DC superhero Destiny clone might look like. In the background, it is just some World War Z footage, yes, and that's less than ideal. I like to have on-topic content playing when discussing these types of things in videos, but seeing as this is such an early leak and as of yet totally unproven, there is nothing that would seem to fit right. I could put some Suicide Squad movie footage, I guess, but that would instantly result in a copyright claim. Even something like 3 seconds of it would still trigger the automated system, depending on how their claims are set up, so yeah, it's just going to be some unrelated zombie game footage, so sorry about that, but yeah. Anyways, back on topic. For starters, the market is fairly saturated right now in terms of loot-based multiplayer live service games. I don't think Warner Brothers is doing themselves any favors if they really are heading down this road, especially considering the recent spotlight that has been placed on similar products as a result of Anthem and Fallout 76. The foundation for public reception isn't very strong. And not only that, operating under the assumption that the leak is true, they are discussing a premium edition and early access, as discussed in the leak. It specifically mentioned those things, which are both sensitive topics owing to their misuse in recent memory by high-profile studios and games. On a basic level, it sounds pretty cool. A multiplayer loot-based Suicide Squad game that allows for players to explore iconic cities and locations from DC Comics. There have also been similar ideas executed in the past, with the most obvious one that comes to mind being DC Universe Online. I actually played DC Universe Online a little bit quite a few years ago, and honestly, it sucked. The novelty of exploring the locations and interacting with my favorite heroes and villains from the comic books wore off very quickly, and once it did, the game had pretty much nothing at all to offer. The upside that the concept has is that superhero lore is extensively developed. There is plenty to draw from. And not only that, there is a massive established fan base. So on the one hand, the game would be launching into an inhospitable landscape owing to its industry peers, but on the other hand, it would not necessarily struggle as much as a traditional fresh IP to gain traction. Still, the idea of a superhero destiny doesn't get my blood pumping. I'd certainly check it out and keep an open mind, but it would be critical for the game to learn from previous titles. The loot-based multiplayer genre is now heavily tested, so if it takes into consideration the trials and tribulations of games like The Division, Destiny, Borderlands, Warframe, etc., it may end up avoiding some of the dangerous pitfalls while also honing in on the expanded comic book fanbase. However, if it pulls an Anthem and does not learn from those that came before it at all, then there is nothing but a free fall and subsequent pavement splatter waiting for it. I cannot say with any degree of certainty whether or not the developer is in fact Rocksteady Studios, but if it were to be true, Rocksteady does not have a history with live service games, which would conjure up Anthem-esque imagery of a single-player focused development company pivoting to the live service model, which has, at least in recent memory, been a complete disaster almost every single time. The leak expressed a speculative launch window in early 2020 and contained some very specific details such as trailer soundtrack and parameters for what segment would be available to media and influencers at the E3 convention. Apparently, if it is to be believed, Gotham will be the open area for the gameplay demo, with Star City then hinted at afterwards. If all this turns out to be true, which I really would not be surprised about at all, I'm most interested to see the initial reaction. It would, after all, be a DC Universe superhero game, which is something a lot of people can get behind. But the general atmosphere regarding live service games being what it is, I would also not be surprised if it is met with a healthy degree of distaste. One particular line in the leak also stands out quite a bit to me, and that is the idea of multiple storylines/pathways. It is rampant speculation, but having multiple branching pathways could indicate a single-player element to the game in addition to the loot-based multiplayer features, which would be a very positive thing in my eyes, at least personally. Even a somewhat condensed single-player storyline that is not treated as the game's main focus can go a long way towards rounding out the package and making it a more deserving title, not to mention the added benefit of throwing a bone to those players that passionately despise always online multiplayer titles that do not allow for much of a solo experience. Having a single player component would also ease some of the concerns I have right now that, of course, contingent on this being proven true, obviously. The whole thing sounds like a colossal waste of talent. That's the downside. If it really is Rocksteady, and furthermore, if it really is a live service multiplayer title, the skill set of the development team just doesn't seem to mesh right. So if their historically proven ability to construct deserving single player experiences can still be utilized, it would be a large net positive in my eyes. The skeptic in me wants to consider this leak an obvious fake because of the many spelling errors, but there have previously been many leaks in which the spelling took on a near comedic level of polish while still ending up as stone cold truth. So the mere fact that someone did not take the time to proofread can't really be used to discredit the information. It seems like a lot of the time the outward facing material that ends up being visible to customers and clients is proofread or edited heavily, but the internal communications are not. I just wanted to preemptively say that before the inevitable comments claiming it's a useless video because the leak has so many spelling errors it can't possibly be real. But now I'd actually love to get the community's feedback. In a lot of videos, there isn't really the right framing to open it up for discussion, but when it comes to a live service Suicide Squad concept, whether real or fake, doesn't really matter, I'm interested to know what everyone thinks. Yes, good, or no, terrible, enough with the games as a service. It's not like Warner Brothers has the best street reputation when it comes to these types of games anyways, and there are additional threads that can be traced for those who are interested, such as Rocksteady hiring a project manager who specializes in games as a service last May, I think. I believe he was the guy behind Shadow of War's monetization model, if I remember correctly, but I didn't fully research that topic because it was tedious as all hell digging stuff up. I find myself believing the leak, mostly, and also feeling a sense of exasperation because Rocksteady would be wasting their talent creating this game, much the same way BioWare was the wrong fit for Anthem. Plus, the world doesn't need any more live service loot-based games. I guess it could end up being cool, but it hasn't got me jittery with excitement, that's for sure. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Superhero Destiny, yes, good, or no, fuck that, it sounds terrible. Either way, should make for a fun discussion. And we don't have to wait all that long to find out anyways. The leak claims a concrete reveal on June 4th, which is right around the corner. So I guess at that point, it will be proven true or false, and I can either look back and be proud of having decided to cover the story and believing it, which I do, I guess I truly do believe it, or be super embarrassed and hope that nobody notices. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. We have various different gaming communities, merchandise, and some other typical stuff that YouTubers often have, but I'll cut it there and I'll stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.